Okay, everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I will be discussing how I find B2B SaaS ideas. So before we get into it, before I actually explain how I find SaaS ideas, let's actually explain what actually is SaaS. Okay, and SaaS is a new concept. If you think about 20, 30 years ago, SaaS didn't really exist. In fact, social media didn't really exist 20, 30 years ago. So, even though SaaS is a fairly new concept, there are SaaS companies that are making, the SaaS companies that have started less than 5 years ago, and now they're worth up to over 10 million. So to put this into perspective, there are service-based businesses that have been operating for well over 50 years, and they haven't even crossed 1 million. Yet a SaaS company that starts, 5 years ago can well be making up to over 10 million. And the only way for most service-based businesses to make over 1 million is to become a franchise, because most service-based businesses need scale. Otherwise, service-based businesses would have to charge extremely high in order to make high margins. Or they would need clients that stay for them an infinitely long amount of time. So the new business models nowadays includes things like platform-based businesses, such as Uber, Airbnb, online coaching, such as online coaching, personal branding, consulting, SaaS, social media marketing agencies, e-commerce, and basically these models have immense scale and have adapted to the change in technology. I think this is very important because you see a lot of you see what happened to newspapers. A few years, maybe 10, 20 years ago, newspapers were still in existence. Nowadays, newspapers have been next to completely replaced by social media. Nowadays, the news websites and social media have become news. So I think it's important to, you know, to consider how the world is changing. And if you're able to adapt to how the world is changing, then you can definitely have a good opportunity to, be very successful. So the better you can adapt to changes in AI, cybersecurity, automation, and even I can even think of some other ones, cloud computing, things like virtual reality. Uh, there's a lot of new things that are happening in the world, and if you can, find an area in these up and coming, I guess, changes, then you can be very successful, at least in my opinion. So an example of this would be like Netflix, right? Netflix replaced Blockbuster. E-commerce has replaced many retail and mom and pop businesses, or brick and mortar businesses. And online coaching has replaced many personal trainers and a lot of um, consulting businesses, right? And soon, I think SaaS will replace many customer service, admin, accounting, and HR jobs. So to develop a successful SaaS, I look at these few things. I look at demand. So what is in high demand? What do businesses really need at the moment? I look at scale and total addressable market. So is this a big problem or is this a very, very small market? And I look at profitability. If I create a SaaS in this field or this market, is there actually an opportunity to profit, or would I be just barely breaking even, or would I be making a loss? And then finally, I look at lifetime. Is this a recurring problem? And the reason I look at lifetime is that because if it is a recurring problem, then that's perfect for SaaS because SaaS is based on subscription. It's a subscription-based model. So you can by continuously solving that problem, you can continue to charge, every month or maybe every year, depending on how you want to structure your pricing. So actually, let's look at what's in high demand. What do businesses really need? Well, at the root of the problem, businesses want to save costs, they want to save time and automate operations, they want to make more money or generate a return on investment, they want to retain their clients as well as their staff members, and they also want to protect themselves. So let's look at cost saving. Okay, so what are some ways they can save costs? Well, they can utilize AI. They can use AI to replace things like content writers. So that's a way for them to save cost. They would also look at automating certain duties like admin and booking. This can help them save on admin costs. Businesses also want to save time, so automation can replace a lot of admin duties, bookings, client onboarding, staff onboardings, etc. They also want to make more money, and in order to do that, they use a lot of social media, paid advertising, things like branding, things like that. So areas for SaaS might be a content creation SaaS, social media SaaS, graphic design SaaS, even video editing now. There's um, there's AI generated video editing software that exists now, which helps to save not only save costs, if you decide to hire someone to edit videos, but it can also help them generate a return on investment. Finally, clients want to automate their processes. So reviews, follow-up messages, offers, automation can solve a lot of these problems and can help them retain clients as well as staff. And finally, businesses want to be protected. Imagine you own a business that's making 1 million, $10 million a year. You don't want to risk losing that entire business if someone hacks into your website or hacks into your database. So has now become something that's in very high demand. Things like password protection, phishing software, a multi-factor authentication. These are all areas that are becoming very high demand. So let's look at some very popular models that currently exist nowadays in terms of SaaS. Okay, so in automation, there's Go High Level, Klaviyo, CRM, there's HubSpot, accounting, there's Zero, signature software, PandaDoc, DocuSign. I think signature software is something that is very important because no business can begin a contract without a signature. So PandaDoc and DocuSign have grown to be huge companies just based off this single single piece of process that a business needs, which is a signature. Cybersecurity software, LastPass, customer service/support software, there's Zendesk, payment software, Stripe, e-commerce, there's Shopify, and project management, there's Monday.com. So if I was to choose a SaaS idea, I would look at each one of these areas and I would basically look at getting into these fields. I wouldn't look at something that's that's super niche and not really popular. I would actually look at the popular models of SaaS, which would be accounting, CRM, automation, etc. So I would look at all these different types of SaaS. And these may seem like very competitive markets, but I think that's better than going for a niche which has a very low amount of scale and which basically has a very small total addressable market. So the way I look at the markets is I like to think of it as if it's a nightclub, right? This might be a good way to understand it. So imagine this side, on the left side is the females and the right side are the males. Okay. So in a common model, in common markets, you might see someone who's a monopoly. So they basically own the entire market. So this would be like, the black dot representing the male. They would have basically the entire nightclub to themselves. That would be a monopoly model, and this is actually a very rare case. Most markets don't exist like this, so I wouldn't really worry too much about this one. The next type of market is something known as perfect competition, which basically means that all the suppliers in the market are the exact same. I think this has some basis of truth if you look at most markets, but it isn't really it's I would probably say this is probably like 80% true. Most markets, if you look at most markets, whether it's service based or e-commerce, most competition is very similar. Including SaaS, it's very similar. So this is quite a it's a model that's quite, I think, based in reality. But I wouldn't say it's 100% perfect competition. I wouldn't say they're 100% all the same, but in the sense that every competitor is the same, then the only way to really succeed in this market is to get to the females. If you're a male on the right side, get to the females the left side before all the other males do. So this would be something like, you know, finding clients where no one else has attempted to find clients. So if you're an accounting software, let's say most accounting softwares use SEO to find clients. So what you might do is if everyone's using SEO, then you would use something like Facebook groups to find clients. That might be an example. All right. The next model I think of would be like the market leaders. So this would be like, I guess, in the nightclub analogy or example, it would be like the light blue dots. They would represent the very hot guys and obviously they get the most mating potential compared to all the other all the other males on the right side, which are just average or below average. So the ones on the left, the four light blue dots, they might be exceptionally popular. They might be very good looking. They might be very tall. That's just an example. So obviously, if you're a SaaS, let's say you're an accounting software, and all the other accounting competitors on the right side, they have very poor accounting software. They don't have any integrations. They're very slow, and suddenly you create a accounting SaaS which is very quick, which is also very has a lot of integrations that they need. Then you would dominate the rest of the competition, and then you would obviously get most of the market. You would get most of the market share. So that's the way I like to think of it. And I think this is quite a common model actually. This is actually, this is across all different fields. Like evolution is basically how this works. This is if you're into science, this is basically what evolution looks like. The top, I guess the phrase is the strongest survive, or I guess the phrase is survival of the fittest. The fittest will survive. So if you beat out all the competition in a specific way, then you can have most of the market share. And then the final example I like to think of is the niche players. So this would be like a, if everyone else is doing the same thing, you do things in a very different way. Now, not completely different, but you do things in a slightly different way that appeals to a specific segment of the market. Now, obviously, you want that segment to have some amount of scale. You don't want to target an extremely small segment. Like, let's say you just go for enterprise software. Let's say you just go for enterprise clients that are in the law industry, which are which need cybersecurity, and they also work with a lot of, let's say, um, not-for-profit organizations. Now, that is a very, very specific and small niche. So that might not be a good idea. But let's say you're just an accounting software, but you're very tailored to small businesses. So maybe that can be a good niche to go in. But these would basically be all the type of markets that I would consider and kind of the ways I would look to approach creating a SaaS. So if we use cybersecurity as an example, in this example, this would be the black dot would represent the top, the black dot would represent a cybersecurity software that solves every single problem, and basically they've reached pretty much the entire market. Compared to all the blue dots on the right side, there would be like cybersecurity software that no one is buying because they have little to no market share. They have little to no kind of brand awareness. Perfect competition would be like every cybersecurity software is the same, and they're just scrambling to get as many clients as they can. They're trying to find new places, new nightclubs. If you use the nightclub analogy, they're trying to find new nightclubs that other people haven't gone to in order to dominate, in order to get as much market share as they can. Market leaders, this would be like the right side would represent very average or below average cybersecurity software, and the before light blue dots on the left side would represent extremely efficient and extremely effective cybersecurity software, which means that they dominate the competition and therefore they take most of the market share. And then the last example, if you look at all the light blue dots on the right side, this would represent, just all the cybersecurity software being the same. And now they do that. Now they still do have some market share, but then there emerges the blue dot on the left side, which is a cybersecurity software that is built specifically for small businesses. So because they more specifically meet the need for small businesses, they can take a lot of that existing market, and they could actually build up a smaller segment where they take most of the market share. So that's basically how I would look at finding B2B SaaS ideas. I know this is probably a bit confusing, but yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Send me a message. I'll leave a comment below, and yeah, that's it.